the silence is deafening. Once alive with the hum of machinery and the steady rhythm of skilled hands, this vast space now echoes with uncertainty. The absence of workers and the stillness of the assembly line speak volumes about the gravity of the situation. In Everett, Washington, Boeing's legendary assembly lines have ground to a halt. The world's largest building by volume, once a symbol of American industrial might, now stands eerily quiet, its future hanging in the balance. This isn't a drill or a glitch, this is the fallout of a geopolitical standoff. The headlines are everywhere and the tension is palpable, stretching far beyond the walls of this factory. China, once Boeing's fastest-growing market, has imposed a punishing tariff on American-made aircraft, forcing Boeing to suspend production. The move is a direct response to escalating trade disputes, and its impact is immediate and severe. The world is watching because this isn't just about planes, it's about jobs, economies, and the balance of power between two global titans. Every decision made here reverberates across continents, affecting supply chains and international relations. A single policy decision in Beijing has idled a factory in the Pacific Northwest and threatened the livelihoods of thousands. Families are left wondering how they'll pay their bills, and entire communities brace for the ripple effects. For decades, Boeing and China were partners, fueling growth on both sides of the Pacific. Their collaboration built not just airplanes, but bridges of commerce and trust that spanned oceans. Now that partnership is in tatters, a casualty of escalating trade tensions. Years of cooperation have unraveled almost overnight, leaving uncertainty in their wake. If a giant like Boeing can be brought to its knees, what is safe? The shockwaves are felt on Wall Street and Main Street alike, as investors and workers alike question what the future holds. The immediate focus, thousands of workers facing an uncertain future, and the economic shockwaves rippling through countless industries, local businesses, suppliers, and service providers all feel the strain as the effects multiply. But the bigger story is about the future of globalization itself. As trade barriers rise and alliances shift, the very foundation of international commerce is being tested in real time. Tonight, we break down what led to this crisis, who's affected, and what could come next in this high-stakes global drama. The world is watching, and the outcome will shape the future of aviation and global trade for years to come. To truly understand the roots of this crisis, we need to look back at how the US and China's economic relationship evolved over decades. Over the years, the US and China built a deep and complex economic connection. China emerged as the world's factory, producing everything from electronics to clothing, while the US provided advanced technology, investment, and a massive consumer market eager for affordable goods. This arrangement transformed both nations. It lifted hundreds of millions of Chinese citizens out of poverty, fueling China's rapid growth, and gave Americans access to a vast array of cheaper products, changing the way people lived and shopped. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered for years. The US faced growing trade deficits, lost manufacturing jobs, and concerns over intellectual property theft. Accusations of unfair trade practices and currency manipulation became common. Despite tough rhetoric from both sides, the two economies became so intertwined that a complete separation seemed almost unthinkable. Businesses and consumers in both countries depended on this relationship. In the last decade, however, these disputes escalated dramatically. Tariffs were slapped on everything from soybeans to steel, impacting farmers, manufacturers, and workers on both sides of the Pacific, with real-world consequences for everyday people. As trust eroded, suspicion and strategic competition took its place, making cooperation more difficult and uncertainty the new normal. The disagreements soon grew beyond economics. Now issues of national security, technological dominance, and global influence were at stake, raising the stakes even higher. The US began to see China's rapid rise as a direct challenge to its global leadership, while China viewed US policies as attempts to contain its ambitions and slow its progress. This ongoing clash of interests and values set the stage for today's high-stakes conflict, with both sides maneuvering for advantage. The recent tariff on Boeing wasn't just a random act. It was a calculated move in a much larger strategic chess match between two global superpowers. All it needed was a spark to ignite the tensions that had been building for years. That spark has now ignited, sending shockwaves through economies, markets, and political systems around the world. Boeing is more than a company. It's a symbol of American innovation and power. Its planes connect cities, drive commerce, and anchor US defense. For years, China was Boeing's largest overseas market, with its airlines placing massive orders. Nearly 1 in 4 Boeing jets was destined for China. Losing that market is a devastating blow. but the relationship was two-way. Chinese firms supply key components for Boeing aircraft. This deep integration once seemed like a guarantee against conflict. Now it's a vulnerability. By targeting Boeing, China hits the US where it hurts: jobs, exports, and national pride. The move is strategic, inflicting maximum economic and political pain. Boeing, once a symbol of global reach, now sits at the epicenter of a trade war. It's a stark reminder of how quickly geopolitical winds can shift. The crisis escalated fast. On August 5, 2025, US-China trade talks collapsed in Geneva. 3 days later, Beijing announced a 35% tariff on large US-made aircraft, specifically naming Boeing's top models. The tariff took effect within a week, making Boeing jets unaffordable for Chinese airlines. Orders were canceled or postponed overnight. Boeing, facing the loss of its biggest international market, had no choice but to halt production. The inventory of unsold planes became a financial burden. On August 19, Boeing announced it was suspending production of its 737 MAX and 787 lines. CEO David Calhoun called it a painful but necessary step. The decision sent shockwaves through the industry and put tens of thousands of jobs at risk. A new chapter in the US-China trade war had begun. Official reactions were swift and predictable. In Washington, the White House condemned China's move as economic aggression and vowed to defend American jobs. Both parties in Congress rallied behind Boeing, calling for a diplomatic solution. Labor unions warned that workers were being caught in a global chess game. In Beijing, officials defended the tariff as a necessary response to US restrictions on Chinese firms. China does not want a trade war, but we are not afraid of one, a spokesperson declared. Diplomatic channels buzzed with tense meetings, but the mood was grim. The UN called for de-escalation, warning of global risks. US allies in Europe and Asia found themselves caught in the middle. One thing was clear: a full-blown trade war helps no one. The world watched, hoping for a way out. The economic fallout is immediate and far-reaching. Boeing employs over 140,000 people in the US. Thousands now face furloughs and uncertainty. The pain spreads beyond Boeing. Thousands of suppliers across the country are in crisis as orders are canceled. A single shutdown threatens jobs in Ohio, Kansas, California, and beyond. The total number of jobs at risk could be several times higher than at Boeing itself. Financial markets reacted with alarm. Boeing's stock plummeted, airline stocks followed, and investor confidence wavered. The dispute stoked fears of a broader global slowdown. Companies everywhere are rethinking their supply chains, questioning their dependence on single markets. There's growing talk of reshoring or friendshoring to reduce geopolitical risk. This could mean higher costs and prices for consumers. The crisis exposes the fragility of global supply chains. For many, the shutdown is a wake-up call. The ripple effects will be felt for years. The world economy is suddenly on edge. Behind the numbers, this crisis has a human face. A third-generation Boeing mechanic in Everett worries about his mortgage. A small business owner in Wichita must cut her employees' hours. These are the people on the front lines of the trade war. The impact extends to travelers. Chinese airlines, unable to expand fleets, may cut flights or raise prices. Millions could face disrupted travel plans and higher fares. The crisis also deepens mistrust between Americans and Chinese, eroding years of cultural and educational exchange. Communities built around Boeing now face a broader economic threat. Local leaders scramble to support families, but resources are limited. The mood is a mix of anger, fear, and pride in their work. Ordinary people are caught in the crossfire of a battle they didn't start. The human cost is impossible to ignore. To put this in context, we spoke with Dr. Evelyn Reed, a leading expert on US-China relations, who has spent years analyzing the shifting dynamics between these two global powers. Dr. Reed explains, "We're seeing the weaponization of economic interdependence. What once bound nations together is now being used as a tool of influence and pressure. For decades, deep economic ties were supposed to prevent conflict, creating a web of mutual benefit and stability. Now those same connections have become a source of leverage, with each side seeking to gain the upper hand. Targeting Boeing," she says, "is a masterstroke, hitting a symbol of US technological leadership and creating space for China's own aerospace industry to grow and compete on the world stage. It's strategic, but risky," she notes, emphasizing that such moves can have unpredictable consequences for both sides. Dr. Reed doesn't expect a full decoupling. Their economies are too intertwined, with supply chains and investments deeply embedded across borders. Instead, she predicts a new era of strategic interdependence, where both countries seek greater self-reliance in critical sectors, but remain connected in others out of necessity. The result is likely to be a more fragmented, less efficient global economy, one where redundancies are built in for security, even if it means higher costs and slower growth. Her advice is clear. Establish clear lines of communication and de-escalate tensions before they spiral out of control. Both sides need an off-ramp, a way to step back from confrontation and avoid unintended escalation. Quiet diplomacy, not public posturing, is key to resolving these complex disputes and rebuilding trust. A prolonged Boeing shutdown would hurt everyone: American workers, Chinese airlines, and the global economy, disrupting jobs and travel worldwide. The challenge is finding a solution that lets both leaders save face, preserving national pride while restoring stability. That will require creative diplomacy, flexibility, and a willingness to compromise on both sides. Right now, both are in short supply, but the stakes have never been higher, and the world is watching closely. We stand at a crossroads. Boeing's silent assembly lines are a symbol of a global order under strain. The next few weeks are crucial. Will the crisis escalate, or can diplomacy prevail? Hundreds of thousands of jobs and the global economy hang in the balance. China's tariff on Boeing was a direct response to US policy, targeting a symbol of American might. The human cost is immense, affecting workers, travelers, and communities. Experts warn this marks a dangerous new phase in US-China relations. The first step must be a return to dialogue and serious negotiation. For Boeing and its workers, the hope is for a quick diplomatic solution. For the rest of us, this is a wake-up call about the fragility of globalization. This story is far from over, and it affects us all.